When I was in fourth grade, my next door neighbor was my best friend and we hung out all the time. We were friends for about a year, and then in fifth grade on the bus, he was like, hey, he told my friends, ask Faith if she wants to be my girlfriend. So I said yes, and I was really excited because that was like my first boyfriend. And then 2 days later, he actually came back on the bus and said, told my friends, tell Faith I don't want to be her boyfriend anymore because I don't want to have mixed kids. A fifth grader trying to process that, I was confused. That just stayed in my mind, just kind of sat there. I didn't analyze it or anything. And I get older and I started thinking a little bit more, and I realized this kid whose house I went over all the time, the parents who act like they loved me, his parents told him, you will have mixed babies if you talk to a black girl. And that's when I really felt like I was being categorized for the first time. That's when I realized that your race actually does matter.
Probably kindergarten, actually. Yeah, I was in a class in Georgia, and it was like a mixed class. There was children of all races. But people somehow, my teacher, I think she somehow expected me not to do as well. It seemed like she was always surprised that I got better grades than the other students, or that I was high achieving or educated, or my parents cared for me,
Whenever I was in kindergarten, we had a day where we were all going to the pool. We had pools outside the playground, and I came to school in a bathing suit, with a skirt attached to it. And when it was time to go to the pool, I just took off my skirt and I was ready to go, and I had like a onesie on. And of course, in kindergarten, I was I was bigger than all the rest of the kids. I just matured early. And there was a kid in my class who was like, you have thunder thighs. And I've never heard of that before in my life. But then I realized, whenever I grew up and I went through puberty and stuff like that, music videos and stuff, thunder thighs were a part of black culture. Women in music videos would have huge thighs and hips, and it's he knew that before me. I had never heard that term before, and for some reason I felt ashamed. I wasn't happy about oh, I love my thighs. I was like, oh wow, why do I have that? I was kind of bummed.
For me, it's always the thing they say, oh, you're not like the others, or you're not like the typical black woman, whatever that means. In high school, teenagers start, to get their own view on things. And again, there are only three non-white person, with me and two others. And that's where that thing started, you're not like them, whatever.
There've been times where people will say, after knowing me or whatever, that, I'm not, I act white or something, I don't know, I'm not, they think black girls are, all loud or, something like that, but I'm more shy and quiet, so they've said I haven't, I don't act black or something.
I first really noticed color whenever I would see how people treated my mom. So it kind of started when I was younger, and so she would talk to people on the phone, and then when she'd meet them, they're like, oh, I thought you were white. It's why'd you think I was white? It's because the way you talk, you're so educated. And that always was kind of weird to me. And now that I think about it, I think that was when I really first noticed color. Because my mom didn't raise us to be thinking, well, you need to be separated from these people. She had us mixed in with everybody. The church we went into, we grew up in, it wasn't an all black church. We had multi-races there, So we didn't really notice, I didn't really notice color until we kind of stepped outside of our world and we saw how people perceived us.
Not only am I a black woman, but I'm a plus size woman. I've always been big my whole life. I've always had people who were white, or just, I guess white, let's just go ahead and say it. Some of them would say remarks to me as I was growing up, oh, big mama, come over here, or something like that. And I've always hated it. I've never thought it was great. I never thought it was productive or positive. And I think that's a prime example because I was big, I was black, I was a woman.
Before I conformed to this really monolithic view, I was busy being myself. So I didn't have two different spheres. My social media sphere, my familial sphere, it was all the same thing. It was all included with my educational sphere. And when I was doing that, wearing my afro out all the time and wearing my shirts with different civil rights leaders on it, I realized that my teachers did not respect me. And it was just very, very blatant examples. I'd go to office hours and there'd be two of us in here, me and someone else who was not a black girl. And I would ask a question, they would completely ignore me and ask the other person if they had a question. People have a view of me, I think that in their head, they're like, because I've been conditioned to believe that black people don't actually try hard and that black people got here because of handouts, I'm not gonna help them anymore after that. I don't feel like they need any help after that because they've already gotten so much.
Now it's more common to see a lot of more people with natural hair. But before, there was a really big push for straight hair. For the longest time, my fiance because I have natural hair, and I've had natural hair for almost 3 years now. He couldn't understand why I didn't want to straighten it. He's like, so you're not going to straighten? No, I'm not going to straighten it. But see, that's because he's so used to all of the black women having straight hair. And that's not just over there, it's over here. It's everybody wants to have straight hair. They don't want to have their natural curly hair. And I told him if I was meant to have that hair, I would have been born with that hair. And I've decided I wasn't going to go back to it anymore.
Controlling images really affect my relationships with people outside of my race. I think that sometimes people may stereotype me for something that they see in the media, and that's not always correct.
Like in the black community and outside of people of other races, they're judging me a certain way and they feel like I should act a certain way.
Well, I've always been really tall and very skinny. So throughout, in puberty, people were always like, you have no butt. You have no butt for a black girl. And you're like, since when is having a butt applied to being African American? People are like, oh, you're so quiet and you're so well-spoken. You don't seem poor. That's not an assumption for being black, is being poor. Basically, through school, that's where I've gotten most of the, oh, you're so different. I'm me, It just doesn't make sense. At first, when I was younger, it used to bother me. I was like, well, why aren't I like this or why aren't I like that? But then I realized, I don't care. I don't care what these other people think of me because I am comfortable in myself.
I think that it just makes me more aware of my actions and what I do and how I come off to other people. So it just makes me more conscious of what I'm doing so I can make sure that I don't perpetuate stereotypes.
The way I feel about stereotypes is it's kind of like a motivation to me, It's like, oh, you expect me to be like this, I'm gonna show you. I don't do it for society in general, but it's also for me. It pushed me to work harder and everything. So even if maybe someone has tried to use the stereotypes against me, I'm probably gonna be like, oh, you tried it. But no, this is not how it works.
My personality does not fit that at all. I think it's because they just see that and they're like, oh, well, it's okay to say that. I'm just joking. But it stuck with me for a long time.
It negatively affected my perception of myself because after I really understood what was happening, it made me wash down who I was when I'm at school. So now when I come to school, I speak a certain way. I'm careful not to speak about certain things. I'm careful to wear my hair a certain way when I go to certain classes.
I don't depend on other people's perceptions of me to be happy, or I don't feel like I need to fit in with anyone else to be satisfied. And I've always been that kind of person. And for me, it's like, you want to have light skin, you want to put cream on yourself looking like Michael Jackson, go ahead. I'm going to stay on my chocolate colored self, okay? I don't need to do that. I feel like I like my skin color. I like my natural hair. I don't need to change just because this is what's popular right now.
Sometimes it's kind of like you're too black for your white friends, but you're too white for your black friends. So it's kind of like, I kind of feel like I've been like judged sometimes, I guess, in that sense. I've like had been around so many different personalities of black women, so it wasn't like everyone was the same, and it was kind of like, why should the way I act be like have a race attached to it? It could just, why isn't it just like my personality?